Hello everyone and welcome to the Anime Zillion, and thank you for joining me as we talk about Volume 9 of the A Certain Scientific Accelerator manga series. A volume full of action, amazing artwork, yet still carried an air of mystery surrounding the characters that were involved. As we learn more about the organisation known as Full Course and the character of Yumi. Now, we open up the volume with Last Order and Yumi's interactions, and this was a great way to get some good laughs going as we started the volume off. Thanks to Last Order's expressions and her cynical thinking, this added another layer and a different vibe and feel to the chapter itself that we were reading. I really liked the way the volume laid itself out overall though, starting off with this comedic heavy section which built up this connection between Last Order and Yumi's character, making it so now, if and when Accelerator gets involved, he'll be helping out two of Last Order's friends, giving him more incentive to take action and resolve the story by the end of it. Because at the moment in time, this story arc does not consist of Accelerator in pretty much any fashion at all. He's just chilling and basically recovering from his injuries. All of this takes place before the climactic fight. So we had the comedy first. Now the climactic fight is being told in the middle of the volume between both sisters, Yumi and Mami, who both wield the same ability, and it's a variation of Error Hand, allowing them to gather air and accelerate it at different velocities and speeds, which we do see them use in many different ways and avenues, projecting themselves throughout the air, creating sphere-like attacks. After all, we know when wind gets fast, it gets deadly. And although the actions and the skills on show were crazy, wild and messy, the art style itself was really clear and easy to understand. I didn't think the quality of the artwork dropped in any capacity at all when we had this climactic fight scene. The only thing that obviously did get hindered was the conversations and the dialogue, but then again, the art style was really nice and pleasant to look at, so you know what, can't grumble too much about that. However, the best thing about this fight, though, was the fact that we see so many differences between the two sisters, despite them being the same age and developing their powers at the same time. These two sisters could not be any different. They're like parallel to each other, showing one in the light and the other in the dark. Yumi joined Judgment, so she is the light, where Mami, her sister, is affiliated with the organisation known as Full Course. This is our new evil organisation that somehow managed to manipulate and modify her body to make her even stronger. So that I want to learn more about. But of course, she would be the representation of darkness. Yet, throughout this whole segment, it showcased the sisters' bond between each other. As the two, neither one of them fully looked committed in fighting each other to the death. They didn't really want to hurt each other. At the beginning, we had Yumi kind of having a nervous expression on her face, not really wanting to help her sister, especially after finding her after so long. Where, on the other hand, Mimi, she pleaded to her co-workers, bosses, whatever you want to call them, to leave her sister alive. She basically stated and lied to them, saying, well, she'll die from her injuries, so there's no point finishing her off for definite. And yeah, I mean, the fact that she did that just states that she doesn't want her sister to die, showing compassion, showing that she still cares about her sister, which I thought was a nice little subtle detail. As well as the fact is, with Mami's character, we do find her expressions a bit nervy throughout the entirety of the volume, especially towards the end. Her face does have a very nervous expression, especially when she talks to the princess about basically saying, you know, I helped you escape. They modified me because I helped you escape. You promised me you'd be far away. But of course, that wasn't true. And that tease that the volume gave us with hints of the character's backstory and about how both sisters arrived at Academy City, as well as how it was all going nicely. They had their own restaurant. Their mum was the main chef in that restaurant, and they were helping out as little children. Until one day, Mami collapsed and there it ends. I thought this was a good way to build up the tension and make us intrigued and want to learn more about the situation, because we learned that she had a disease, but not got told what the disease was called. Yet, looking at the reactions from Yumi Kawa's character, This is a very telling expression. It tells us that the disease is something deadly and incurable that we've either never heard of, or it can mean the opposite. It can mean something that we've heard of before from this franchise. And it's something that Yumi Kawa has experienced herself firsthand. This basically means that, we'll have to filter through the franchise, see what different diseases and conditions are within the franchise, and kind of piece the pieces together. Unfortunately speaking, no, I haven't found anything that Yumi Kawa would specifically know about that we've seen on screen. The only thing I can roughly link it to is the level upper, but I don't think that has anything to do with this at this moment in time. So I am still very intrigued to learn about this disease and what it actually is. As well as the fact is, I want to know how these two sisters got so distant. Even if the sister had a disease, surely Academy City should be able to help. But why is one on the good side and one on the side of evil? We'll have to learn more in Volume 10, I suppose. The vibe I got from the full course members reminded me of early Tokyo Ghoul. If you've seen Tokyo Ghoul, you kind of know what I'm talking about. There's a character within it called Tsukushima. This character would sell on an auction humans to his ghoul guests. This kind of felt similar to that because they had the princess pinned up on the cross, ready to be drained of all of her kind of whatever's inside her locket that she has on her body. Now we end off with that, with lots of hungry spectators kind of cheering and roaring on. This, again, just made me feel a little bit uncomfortable reading it, but it reminded me heavily of Tokyo Ghoul. In fact, there were quite a few references or things that I saw from this volume that reminded me of other series. We've got the conversation with Last Order and Yumi at the beginning, where they're cooking food, and Last Order feels like she's transcending and there's angels flying everywhere. Of course, reminds me of Food Wars. As just said, this reminds me of early Tokyo Ghoul with the whole princess being on the cross and audiences kind of cheering and wanting a piece of her. I think I'm thinking, oh, and the fight itself, some of the choreography and some of the action shots, I don't know why, but it just reminded me of Naruto vs Sasuke from Naruto. But that's just me, that's my brain going a bit funny and a bit wild. But yeah, honestly, nothing really spectacular happened or groundbreaking happened within this volume. Overall, when comparing this volume to the other ones before it, it was not as good as the previous volumes. Yet, it still held its own charm and still had its own good qualities about it to make it a really nice volume to read. So if you haven't read it yet, I would highly suggest to go and do it. If not for the dialogue, but for the art style itself, because the artwork was fantastic. The character designs that get introduced are really intriguing and pretty sinister at the same time, which I think is cool. And yeah, it just makes the volume feel really enjoyable when you're reading it, because I had a smile on my face while going through it. The only thing I was a bit confused about is the cover image. I mean, I made a reference earlier, or a statement earlier, that Accelerator has nothing to do in this arc. Yet, he gets the cover photo. I don't really understand why, because normally with the cover photos, they kind of link it to what's happening in the volume. Yet, the only thing I can think of that this cover photo links to Accelerator would be his frustration at being chained to his bed in the hospital. But yeah, honestly, I would have preferred to see another character on the front page instead, but it's the Accelerator manga, so I guess we've got to kind of keep it consistent with having him there. But yeah, I can't wait to find out more information and learn more about the organisation known as Full Course and the character of Mami and Yumi. I think they're interesting characters from what I learned in this volume. And yeah, let's read the next one and see how it goes. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. If you have, hit that like button. Subscribe if you're new for more Accelerator and Index Railgun videos from me in the future. But until then, have a great day. Alligator, matane. Goodbye.